Charlie Kirk has been credited by U.S. President Donald Trump specifically for building support for the MAGA movement among young people. And for a bit more on that aspect, I'm joined now by Craig A. Johnson. He's a lecturer at UC Berkeley, and he's the author of the book, How to Talk to Your Son About Fascism. He also hosts the podcast 15 Minutes of Fascism, and he joins us now today from Berkeley, California. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us. Given the title of your book, how are you thinking about the events this week, the conversations around them, particularly among young people?
Yeah, I mean, like your previous guest was talking about, it's a really tough time to talk to young people about violence and extremism, especially for a lot of people in older generations who didn't live through periods of extreme partisan violence like lots of people in the United States are going through. So in that way, they're sort of unprepared. They can't warn their kids about it in the same way that they can about the risks of sexually transmitted diseases or drugs or, all the other sort of uncomfortable conversations that you need to have with a child. So a lot of parents are floundering.
And what do you see as a kind of opening, a way forward in that conversation?
Well, the real thing to do is to know that young people are going to be encountering right-wing messaging. They're going to be encountering extremist views. They're going to be encountering disturbing content online. That's just part of the nature of online culture. Some of the things that we're learning about the supposed shooter of Charlie Kirk, the person who is in custody right now, is that it seems like he was very steeped in sort of extremist and fringe online culture in a way that might seem like it's something that wouldn't really happen to anybody. But in fact, in reality, for lots of young people, that's just very normal. The kinds of memes that he was sharing, the kinds of things that he thought was funny, those are very normal. So the thing to know is you're not going to be the first person to introduce these concepts to young people just by talking to them about them and warning them about them. You can't shelter them from it. You have to really get out ahead of it. And so unfortunately, a time like this is maybe a time to have that conversation with a young person and to say, like, is any of this content stuff that you've ever seen? Have friends shared these memes with you?
I want to talk to you about the differing views, right? And how people view these controversies. President Donald Trump on social media on Wednesday, in a video, he said, for years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. And he said this kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing right now in this country. As well, Florida Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna wrote, this is her quote, "Damn one of you who called us fascists did this. You are the hate you claim to fight. Your words caused this." So what do you make of that argument that it is using that word and that framing that inflames emotions and can lead to violence?
Well, as a scholar of the right wing, fascism is a very specific thing, and it gets thrown around a lot as an insult, not just by people on the left, but also by people on the right. One of the things that we seem to be learning again about this person who's in custody on suspicion of killing Charlie Kirk is that he was probably an adherent of an even further right-wing perspective than Charlie Kirk was, one that's associated with a person named Nick Fuentes. This is an online subculture called Groypers, who accused Kirk of being a fascist. And Nick Fuentes is an extremely right-wing individual who would say racist slurs, he was very openly anti-Semitic, et cetera, et cetera. And so the fact is that, yeah, fascism is a word that's often just used as an insult without much content.
And what is the context you want to leave people with?
I mean, the real context here, unfortunately, is that this isn't going away. This is probably the beginning of a wave of partisan violence that will sweep over the United States possibly for quite a long time. And so keep your loved ones safe and prepare your children to grow up in a situation that's very different from the one you did.
Craig A. Johnson, I appreciate talking to you and hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
The author of the book, How to Talk to Your Son About Fascism, and the host of the podcast, 15 Minutes of Fascism, Craig A. Johnson, joined us from Berkeley, California.